Today is the first day with shootable conditions in about a week. It has just rained the entire time, non-stop. Finally we are here. However, I do think that this first image over here was well worth a week of waiting, because in that week everything is fully turned to autumn colors and we have phenomenal, spectacular conditions. However, by just spinning the camera in this direction, I noticed that a couple of the trees are aligning very much perfectly, and there's such a harmony in terms of color balance. There's so much interest because from the right hand side I got some cooler tones interfering or entering the frame, and then on the left hand side it's just colliding with all of these warmer colors. It is a very abstract shot. It's mostly about the colors and the interaction of interference of these cooler tones, these warmer tones. It looks very moody, even though there are so many warm colors in there. Very abstract. It's very hard to put into words, but it's almost like all of these autumn colors are covered in just a tiny amount of snow, or frost maybe. And I think that's what makes it so interesting and creates this color contrast. I'm already pretty sure that this is going to be the favorite image of today's video. Can't really explain this shot, it just works visually. So I'm going to show you the image, and then we're going to spin the camera around to this one and capture some of these birch trees. So this is quite a simple scene. You have these I'm not even quite sure if it's birch trees. I'm just assuming because of the color. But you have this very bright texture on the stumps, on the branches. And then obviously all these very bright, very light yellowish leaves make all the color and all the interest in the image. So it's mostly about framing and composition. In terms of framing, I'm going for quite a zoomed in shot. I really want you to focus on the colors, not really get distracted by all of the surroundings. And I think some of the surroundings in the background will just help because it creates color contrast. The trees in the background are very orange, almost red. And then you have the yellow leaves and then the very bright stump color texture. You know what I mean? So it just helps with that. It's just composition. I mean, all of these branches, they are growing quite straight, which helps. It creates some symmetry, some interest. It's really hard to put the leaves, or to find leaves and make them work in the frame that I set up. That's the challenge in this one. So I think I found a framing and composition that I'm quite happy with. Again, just a little bit lucky because this was just given to me, but all of these branches are going quite straight. And then I've just placed all of the yellowish leaves in a way that at least creates some visual interest, or maybe some sense, some harmony maybe. It's very hard to put into words. But I think this is the best way that I can set it up with, well, the things that are given to me. So, yeah. And also I'm exposing quite brightly, because with the bright color and the bright yellowish leaves, you don't want to go for a dark exposure. You want it to be bright and really, support the yellow leaves and the bright colors. So at almost half a second exposure time, f6.3 and ISO 100. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. So keep on going, because I don't want to underestimate how quickly it will get dark during this time of the year, because the light is already fading. But I still want to get a couple more images because it's so beautiful over here. I mean, everything looks kind of shootable. Alright, Next composition. So by walking by here, I could very quickly identify that this was a potential shot, and then while setting up camera, I found something that works as a composition that I'm quite happy with. So most of the trees over here, they have such a mossy and beautiful texture, which is already great. Then obviously you have all these mostly yellowish, but also some orange, some reddish autumn leaves, beautiful. And then for some reason, a lot of the trees are growing over towards this direction, over towards or like above the way, arching over it. But then some of the trees just in between, growing towards the right. Maybe up my ISO a little bit, and then exposure time as well. Ooh, at least 4 seconds. Fingers crossed, I'm not quite sure. At least we got a little bit of wind pause now. In terms of composition, I'm including this one on the right hand side of my frame because it has this very beautiful mossy texture. Then we have these three as a main subject, these three over there as another main subject. And then in the background, there are the trees which are growing over to the right hand side, while all of the trees in the foreground are growing towards the left hand side. That is what I was talking about when I meant that it creates some visual interest, just because the trees in the foreground growing to the left, trees in the background growing to the right. It just creates some visual interest. If you want to learn more about photography and how to create images like I do, I have a photography course available. It's the first link in the description, and I teach you everything you need to know about landscape photography. Settings of your camera, tips and tricks, post-processing, and everything you need to know about being in the field. So there's everything you need to start out. You might be interested in that, check it out. If you enjoy my images, you may want to have some of them as a print on your wall. I have quite a few available. I've just released 2 new collections. The first one is about seascape. The second is about woodland, and depending on when you watch this video, there might be a third one, like a seasonal one, which for now is about autumn. This will only be available for a limited amount of time, so make sure to give it a look. Well, eating my own words. It might not come across on camera, but it has gotten quite dark quite quickly. So heading back on the car and hopefully gonna find another image on the way back, because yeah, conditions are amazing, just like peak autumn colors. So beautiful. All right, before it's gonna fade into complete darkness, found one more image. You can see it on the camera. It's very dark already. I'm at an exposure time of almost 15 seconds, so very, very darkish. But I do quite like the structure and the way that these 2 trees over there are growing. I'm not sure if I can give you any B-roll, but I do really like the structure of 2 of these trees over there. Again, they have beautiful autumn colors. A lot of orange, almost red, so it's very saturated, it's a very rich and deep tone. It's just very hard to explain, but because I'm doing a long exposure and I'm using the very minimal and fading amount of light that is still around to capture this image, the colors just seem a little bit different. So the colors are very equally distributed, unlike if there was some normal daylight around. So I'm just using that to create a little bit of a different vibe or tonality around this last image. Apart from that, thank you for watching the video. Like, share, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you want to see more of my videos, there's an on location playlist in the description. Thank you for the support. See you in the next one, and enjoy the last image.